The Galactic Council had seen many wars, but none concerned them less than the rising tension between the humans and the Excellenary. To them, Earth was a minor player, a species that had climbed from the dirt only recently. The Excellenary, on the other hand, were an empire spanning dozens of star systems. Their arrogance was well earned. The warning had been clear. "Do not cross this line," the human ambassador had said. His voice was steady, his gaze unblinking. "We do not seek war, but we will not allow our people to suffer. This is your final warning." The Excellenary Council had laughed. To them, humans were soft, weak creatures who talked too much about peace. They had seen other species beg for mercy before, and they assumed Earth was no different. And so, they struck first. The attack. It happened on the colony of Aurora 7, a peaceful human settlement at the edge of the Orion sector. Families lived there, scientists studied the stars, and children played in artificial parks under the glow of twin suns. Then the sky burned. Excellenary warships descended like metal demons, their plasma cannons lighting up the cityscape. Buildings crumbled, screams filled the air, and defenses were overwhelmed within minutes. Those who tried to flee were shot out of the sky. In less than an hour, Aurora 7 was nothing but ruins and corpses. A single distress signal escaped before the Excellenary could jam communications. It carried a short message across the void. They attacked. No survivors. Send help. On Earth, that message was received in silence. Then someone whispered 3 words that changed everything. They chose war. The Council's mistake. Back in the Galactic Council, the Excellenary representative smirked as he addressed the assembly. The humans are not warriors. They are farmers, traders, diplomats. They will cry, they will beg, and they will surrender. It is their nature. Some nodded in agreement. Others remained silent, uncomfortable. They had heard rumors, stories of what happened the last time someone truly angered humanity. But no records existed. No witnesses had ever survived. The Excellenary dismissed it as myth. They did not realize that, for the first time in history, Earth had gone quiet. And when humanity goes silent, something terrible is coming. The silence from Earth did not last long. Less than a day after Aurora 7 was wiped out, humanity's response arrived, not in words, not in diplomacy, but in something far worse. It came as a fleet unlike anything the Excellenary had ever seen. The Ghost Fleet arrives. The Excellenary expected a slow, disorganized response. They believed humanity would negotiate, send ambassadors, maybe even plead. Instead, their deep space sensors picked up something impossible. Hundreds of human warships entered the Orion sector, but they did not appear through normal hyperspace lanes. They jumped in unannounced, untraced, unseen. The Excellenary had no warning. By the time they noticed, the ships were already here. Their hulls were black, absorbing radar pings like void itself. Their engines ran cold, their weapons powered up but silent. The fleet moved like ghosts. No signals, no hails, no messages. Then the first strike came. It wasn't an attack on a military base. It wasn't a battle in deep space. It was a message. The colony erased. The Excellenary had a colony world called Phos Prime. It was not a fortress, but it was heavily guarded. It had planetary shields, a fleet in orbit, and nearly 3 million Excellenary civilians. Humanity did not care. At precisely 200 Galactic Standard Time, a single human dreadnought emerged from the void above Phos Prime. It fired once. A weapon unknown to the galaxy, something beyond plasma or railguns, beyond missiles or lasers. A silent beam of energy struck the planet's surface. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then the atmosphere caught fire. Phos Prime did not explode. It did not shatter. It simply ceased. The lush forests turned to ash. The oceans boiled away. The cities melted into glass. In under 5 minutes, Phos Prime was gone. Not conquered, not occupied, erased. The extraordinary fleet stationed in orbit did not even have time to react. Their ships lost power. Their systems fried in an instant. They drifted helplessly as they watched their home burn. The humans had left them alive, for one reason only: to watch. The galaxy reacts. The news of Vos Prime's destruction spread faster than light. Every species in the Galactic Council heard the same chilling report. Humanity has entered the war. Some did not believe it at first. Others understood immediately. The extraordinary, however, were in shock. This was not how the war was supposed to go. They had expected resistance, maybe some skirmishes, maybe a few lost ships. They had not expected a single human ship to wipe out an entire planet. They had not expected Earth to strike first, and without hesitation. And they had not expected the next message that came, a transmission broadcast across all frequencies, in a voice cold as death. This was your first lesson. The second will be worse. The extraordinary had made a mistake so grave, so irreversible, that no species in the galaxy would ever repeat it. They had thought Earth was weak. They had thought humanity was slow to anger. They had thought wrong. And now, humanity had begun the hunt. The silent war. The extraordinary had always relied on their intelligence network. They believed they had eyes and ears everywhere. But after Vos Prime was erased, their spies started disappearing. Not captured. Not interrogated. Just gone. Entire ships vanished mid-transmission. Outposts went silent. High-ranking officers locked their doors one night and were simply never seen again. It wasn't war. It was eradication. Something was stalking them. Something that did not negotiate, did not hesitate. And worst of all, they never saw it coming. Ghost ships in the dark. The extraordinary fleet gathered at Torvax 9, a heavily fortified starbase. It had enough firepower to hold off entire armadas. But when the admiral in charge, High Commander Jorven, looked at the battle maps, he saw nothing. No enemy fleet approaching. No distress signals from border worlds. No warnings. Then, the station's lights flickered. A whisper echoed through the command bridge. "Are you afraid?" Every officer froze. Jorven spun around. No one had spoken. Then, outside the viewing deck, in the endless void of space, they appeared. Human warships, not attacking, not moving, just waiting. Their hulls were dark, their weapons primed but silent. Their presence alone was a message. We are here, and we are watching. For the first time in his life, Jorven felt something the extraordinary had never known before. Terror. The first kill. It happened fast. The humans did not send demands. They did not announce their attack. One moment, the extraordinary command ship was fully operational. The next, its engines failed. Then its shields dropped. Then, its hull tore open from the inside. Security footage later revealed the horror. Black armored figures had boarded the ship. They moved like shadows. No footsteps. No voices. No mercy. The extraordinary warriors inside had no time to react. By the time alarms blared, the ship's entire command crew was already dead. The last recording from the Admiral's personal log was a single, ragged breath. Then silence. When the extraordinary reinforcements arrived, they found the command ship still floating. But something had changed. The entire crew was gone. Not a single extraordinary remained. No bodies. No blood. Just an empty ship, and a single human message scrawled onto the walls in deep red letters. Run. The galaxy holds its breath. Word spread like wildfire. The extraordinary empire, once feared, was now the hunted. Planets fell silent overnight. Colonies stopped responding. Fleets mobilized, but no battles took place, because every time the extraordinary sent ships out, they never came back. No wreckage, no distress signals, just vanished. The rest of the galaxy, they did nothing. Because every species understood one thing. This was no longer a war. This was punishment, and humanity was far from finished. The Excellenary Empire was crumbling, and they knew it. Their once proud fleets were either decimated or hiding in the shadows. They were no longer in control of their own fate. For the first time in centuries, the Excellenary began to panic. Their leaders, once calm and composed, were frantic, and their communication channels, once bustling with strategy and commands, now echoed with fear. The humans had become something they couldn't understand, a force that hunted in silence, but when they struck, it was swift, brutal, and without mercy. They had awakened a sleeping giant, and now the Excellenary were the prey. But there was still hope, or at least that's what the Excellenary convinced themselves of. They had one card left to play, an ancient weapon, hidden for centuries on a desolate planet. The weapon was said to be a massive superweapon, one that could wipe out entire fleets in a single strike. The Excellenary called it the Reaver. They believed it would be their salvation, but they had to find it first. And they were running out of time. The mission. It was a quiet meeting in the shadow of the Excellenary High Command. The War Council had gathered, and the plan was simple: find the Reaver, activate it, and use its power to end the humans' reign of terror. But as they discussed their plan, the air in the room grew tense. There was something they weren't saying, something that gnawed at the edges of their confidence. None of them had ever seen the Reaver. It was an ancient weapon, hidden for a reason. Only the oldest, most secretive factions of the Excellenary knew of its existence. It had been whispered about in their legends, and the Council had only uncovered its location after centuries of searching. The coordinates pointed to a planet known as Chiron IV, a barren, hostile world where few dared to venture. The planet was rumored to be cursed, haunted by the remnants of a lost civilization. But the Excellenary had no choice. They needed the Reaver. They needed to strike back at the humans. And they needed to do it now. The planet of shadows. Chiron IV was a desolate place, with winds that howled through the cracked, barren landscape. The air was thin, and the sky was perpetually gray. Nothing grew here, and no life had been found for centuries. The Excellenary fleet descended onto the planet, their ships gliding silently toward the surface. They had no idea what awaited them. They only knew that the Reaver had been hidden beneath the surface, buried deep within the planet's core. The leader of the mission, Commander Vukar, led his team down to the surface. They were cautious, their weapons ready, knowing the legends about the cursed planet were no mere superstition. As they entered the planet's ruins, they could feel something. It was in the air, a sense of unease. It was as if the planet itself was watching them, waiting for them to make the wrong move. The Excellenary had been hunting humans for weeks, but now they were the ones being hunted. The awakening. Deep beneath the surface of Chiron IV, the Reaver lay dormant, its power sealed away by ancient technologies long forgotten by most of the galaxy. It had been left there for a reason, hidden away to prevent its destructive force from falling into the wrong hands. The Excellenary believed they had found it, but they were not the first to set foot on this cursed planet. As Commander Vukar's team ventured deeper into the ruins, they found something unexpected. Buried beneath the wreckage of ancient structures, they uncovered strange markings on the walls, symbols of war, symbols of destruction. These were the same symbols the humans had seen in their nightmares. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled. A low hum began to vibrate through the planet, resonating in their bones. The Reaver had sensed their arrival. It was awakening. But it wasn't just the Reaver that had awakened. From the shadows, figures moved. Figures dressed in human combat armor. Their eyes glowed with an eerie light, and their weapons were drawn, ready for battle. The humans had known about the Reaver all along. And now, they were here. The Excellenary's last stand. The battle began with a deafening roar as the humans attacked. Their presence felt like a storm crashing through the ruins. The Excellenary, once the most feared species in the galaxy, found themselves on the defensive. Their weapons, once so powerful, were now useless against the relentless onslaught of human warriors. But Commander Vikar and his soldiers fought back, desperate to reach the Reaver before it was too late. They couldn't let the humans win. Not now. As the battle raged on, the Excelenary came to realize one horrifying truth. They were no longer in control. The humans had anticipated their every move, and now they were being pushed back into the very darkness they had tried to escape. The ground shook violently as the last of the Excelenary forces retreated deeper into the ancient ruins. Commander Vikar's heart pounded in his chest, the weight of the situation sinking in. They had underestimated the humans. Worse, they had awakened something far darker than they had ever imagined. The Reaver. Deep within the heart of the ruins, the machine hummed louder with every passing second, its energy pulsing like a beating heart. The Excelenary had only scratched the surface of its power, but the humans had been watching, waiting for this moment. They had known it was only a matter of time before the Excelenary found the Reaver, and they had made their move accordingly. Commander Vikar's mission had changed in an instant. The Reaver, once thought to be the last hope of their civilization, had become a weapon of mass destruction, and now it was no longer in their control. The humans' plan. The human soldiers moved swiftly through the ruins, taking out Excelenary forces with terrifying efficiency. They weren't just fighting, they were hunting. The Excelenary had no idea what they were up against. The humans had spent years studying them, learning their weaknesses, and devising strategies to counter their strength. What the Excelenary didn't realize was that the humans weren't just defending themselves, they were baiting them. For months, humans had monitored the Excelenary movements, tracking their fleets, listening to their transmissions, and piecing together their plans. They knew that the Reaver was the Excelenary's last hope, and they had no intention of letting them get their hands on it. When the Excelenary launched their assault on Chiron IV, the humans were ready. They had infiltrated the planet's surface, hiding in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. The Reaver was theirs now, and they were going to make sure the Excelenary never used it. The final decision. Commander Vikar and his remaining soldiers reached the heart of the ruins, where the Reaver was held. The ancient machine was a marvel of engineering, its metallic surface glimmering with strange alien runes. Its power core was a glowing sphere that pulsed with raw, unrefined energy. But there was something off about it. The machine's hum had changed, from a steady thrum to an irregular, erratic sound. As Vikar approached, he noticed the air around the Reaver seemed to distort, like the fabric of space itself was warping. The Reaver had become unstable, and then, without warning, it activated. The sphere in the center of the machine glowed brighter, and the ground trembled beneath the Excelenary's feet. Vikar's heart skipped a beat as he realized what was happening. The Reaver was preparing to fire. But it wasn't firing at the humans. It was firing at everything. The destruction was instant. The ground split open beneath them, sending shockwaves through the ruins. Beams of energy shot up into the sky, ripping apart the very fabric of the planet. The Reaver's power was beyond anything the Excelenary had imagined, and now it was out of control. The final betrayal. As the Reaver's destructive energy began to tear Chiron IV apart, Commander Vikar's mind raced. They had unlocked a power far too great to be controlled. The weapon, once thought to be their salvation, was now the planet's doom. In the chaos, the human soldiers made their move. They had lured the Excelenary to the planet's core and then activated their own trap. While the Reaver was discharging its energy, the humans had planted charges throughout the ruins, preparing to bring the entire complex down. Vikar tried to organize his remaining forces, but it was too late. The humans were everywhere. They had planned this from the very beginning. The Excelenary had walked right into their trap. The fall of the Excelenary. With the Reaver's energy growing stronger and the planet falling apart around them, Commander Vikar's forces had no choice but to retreat. They had been defeated. Their last hope was gone, and their civilization was crumbling. As the excelenary forces scrambled to escape the collapsing planet, the humans watched from the shadows. There was no triumph in their eyes, no sense of victory. They had simply done what needed to be done to survive. The Reaver's power continued to spiral out of control, tearing through the planet like a storm, leaving nothing but destruction in its wake. The excelenary, once proud and powerful, were now nothing more than a footnote in history. They had awakened something far darker than they could have ever imagined, and it had cost them everything. The humans stood firm, resolute. They had won, and they had done so not with brute force, but with intelligence and patience. The excelenary had underestimated them. And now, the entire galaxy would know the cost of that mistake. The galaxy trembled as the echoes of Chiron Ivy's destruction reached the farthest corners of known space. What had once been a thriving planet, full of alien life and ancient mysteries, was now a barren husk. Its surface had cracked open under the fury of the Reaver, and the energy it unleashed had shattered the core, sending shockwaves through the entire planet. As the dust settled, the survivors of the excelenary forces fled to the stars, scattered, broken, and defeated. The once proud empire was in ruins. Their fleet, their advanced technology, and their leaders were now nothing but remnants of a lost cause. They had come to Earth seeking to conquer, but they had instead unleashed their own destruction. Commander Vikar was among the few who managed to escape, his ship barely intact after the catastrophic event. The loss of Chiron IV was a blow that would reverberate throughout the galaxy. The excelenary would never recover from it. But as the commander stared out at the vast expanse of space, his mind churned with one question: what had they done? The humans' response. Meanwhile, on Earth, the response was far more muted. Humanity's war was not over. It had only just begun. The destruction of Chiron IV had been a victory, yes, but it was one that came at a cost. The Reaver's power had left its mark, and the consequences of the humans' actions were beginning to unfold. The humans had acted decisively, but there were no celebrations. There was no parade to mark their victory. The galaxy now knew the power of the human race, and with it came new dangers. The destruction of Chiron IV had drawn the attention of every alien species in the galaxy, and the humans knew that their enemies were now aware of the strength they possessed. The Earth was no longer a peaceful world. It was a beacon of strength, and in the dark corners of space, that made it a target. But humanity was not afraid. They had learned the price of peace, and they were ready to defend it at all costs. The cost of war. Despite their victory, humanity's leaders knew that they couldn't rest. The destruction of Chiron IV had shaken the foundation of the galaxy. The excelenary were not the only species watching from the shadows, and many others would see Earth's newfound power as a threat. The most pressing issue was the technology humanity had uncovered. The Reaver was not the only artifact they had found on Chiron IV. Beneath the ruins, hidden in the depths of the planet, were relics of ancient civilizations, advanced technologies, and forgotten knowledge, far beyond anything Earth had ever seen. The question now was what to do with these artifacts. Could humanity keep them safe, or would they become a target for other galactic empires? As Earth's leaders convened to discuss their next steps, the truth was clear. The galaxy would not forget the lesson learned on Chiron IV. Humanity was no longer a species to be underestimated. They had crossed a line, and now they would have to face the consequences. The Excellenaries return. In the aftermath of the battle, the Excellenary were scattered. Their fleets were crippled, their forces weakened, and their empire was on the brink of collapse. But the Excellenary were not a species to give up easily. Despite their catastrophic loss on Chiron IV, they had learned from their mistakes. Commander Vikar, now one of the few surviving leaders of the Excellenary, swore revenge. The humans had taken the Reaver from them, but they had no idea what they had truly unleashed. There were other weapons, other relics, deep in the forgotten corners of the galaxy. Things far more dangerous than anything humanity could ever imagine. The Excellenary would regroup. They would rebuild. And they would return. A new era of war. As the humans prepared for what was to come, they knew the stakes were higher than ever before. The galaxy was now a battlefield, and Earth had become the center of it all. New alliances were formed, and new enemies emerged from the shadows. The Reaver's power had shown the galaxy that humans were not to be trifled with, but it had also painted a target on their backs. Humanity's greatest strength was their unity. Despite the vast differences that separated them, they stood together in the face of an uncertain future. But even they knew that their unity might not be enough to stop what was coming. The galaxy was changing, and the humans were at the center of it all. The question was no longer whether they could defend themselves. It was whether they could survive. The silence before the storm. As the humans prepared for the inevitable galactic conflicts ahead, there was a strange, eerie calm. The echoes of the Reaver's power faded into space, but the galaxy was far from peaceful. The destruction of Tyron IV had been a pivotal moment, one that would forever alter the course of history. But for now, the humans waited. They knew that their enemies would soon come, seeking revenge, power, and control. Earth would be the center of a new war, a war unlike any that had ever been fought before. And so, the stage was set for the next chapter in humanity's struggle. The question was no longer whether they could survive, but whether they could win. The calm before the storm had passed. Tension now hung heavy in the air. Humanity had proven its strength on Chiron IV, but the galaxy had not forgotten the lesson learned. Across distant star systems, warships gathered in the shadows. Fleets that once might have hesitated were now emboldened by the knowledge of what Earth could do. On Earth, the leaders knew that this was not a time for complacency. With the fall of Chiron IV, the enemy's next move was already in motion. The Excellenary were rebuilding, and with their ancient knowledge and relentless drive, they would be back. There were whispers of new alliances, of secret fleets being assembled. This time, humanity would not just face one enemy, they would face a united front. In the heart of Earth's Central Command, General Aiden Torres stood before a large screen, his fingers tracing the holographic map of the galaxy. The plan was clear. Earth must be prepared for the inevitable attack. Every fleet, every soldier, every weapon would be mobilized. But as Aiden scanned the map, a sense of dread lingered in his chest. The galaxy had never seen an enemy like humanity before. And now, humanity had no choice but to face them all. The Reaver's true power. While the leaders strategized, a small group of scientists on Earth's research stations worked tirelessly to understand the full scope of the Reaver's power. The weapon that had been used to destroy Chiron IV was just one example of the untapped potential locked within the alien relics. It had been designed to destroy entire civilizations. But what if it could do more? The scientists had been experimenting with its power, and what they discovered shook them to their core. The Reaver could manipulate not just energy, but space itself. Time, gravity, and even the fabric of the universe could be warped to humanity's advantage, or their destruction. The terrifying realization hit: if the Reaver's true potential was unlocked, humanity would wield the power to reshape the galaxy. It could be a weapon of unimaginable power, or it could be their doom. The Excellenary's counterattack. As Earth scrambled to prepare for the inevitable war, the Excellenary were making their move. Having rebuilt their shattered fleets, they launched a counterattack that shook the galaxy to its foundations. The once proud Excellenary, humiliated by their defeat on Chiron IV, were not only seeking revenge, they were seeking to reclaim their lost honor. Vakar, the commander who had survived the destruction of his world, was now leading his forces into the heart of human space. His hatred burned brighter than ever. The humans had not only destroyed his home, but had humiliated his people. And now, they would pay for it. Vakar had one weapon in his arsenal that humanity could not prepare for, a mysterious artifact that had been hidden in the ruins of Sci-Fi. This artifact had the power to turn the tide of the war in an instant. With it, he could break humanity's defenses, and Earth would fall. The Excelenary knew that this was their last chance. If they failed this time, they would be wiped from history. The galaxy would be a very different place, and the humans would rule it. A desperate plan. Back on Earth, General Torres and his team knew the stakes were higher than ever before. Earth had proven it could stand its ground, but facing an entire galaxy united against them was a different battle altogether. The humans' greatest strength had always been their adaptability and their unity, but they had never faced an enemy like this. A daring plan was formed. Instead of waiting for the Excelenary to come to Earth, humanity would strike first. Using the Reaver's technology, they would attack the Excelenary's homeworld, Tyrann, before the enemy could unleash the power of their artifact. The hope was to destroy the Excelenary's chance of retaliation before it could even begin. But such a mission came with risks that even the bravest soldiers hesitated to take. The decision was made. A team of elite soldiers would embark on this dangerous mission, carrying with them the power to reshape the galaxy. If they succeeded, the Excelenary would be crushed once and for all. If they failed, the consequences would be catastrophic. The battle for Sci-Fi. The mission was set in motion. A fleet of human ships, armed with Reaver-powered weapons and ready to face whatever came their way, entered Sci-Fi's orbit. The planet was heavily guarded, its defenses bolstered by the newly unified forces of the Excelenary. The battle would be fierce and the outcome uncertain. As the human fleet descended upon the Excelenary defenses, explosions rocked the battlefield. Ships collided in space, their hulls splintering under the pressure of advanced alien weaponry. The human soldiers fought with relentless determination, knowing that the fate of Earth rested in their hands. General Torres' voice came through the comms, a beacon of strength to his soldiers. "This is it," he said. "We fight for our future. We fight for our world." The final assault on Sci-Fi began, with the Reaver's devastating power unleashed against the Excelenary forces. But in the midst of the chaos, something unexpected happened. The Excelenary activated their artifact, the very weapon that had the potential to destroy humanity. In the heart of the battle, the Reaver and the artifact clashed. Energy surged between them, creating a blinding explosion that sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. Time itself seemed to bend as the two forces collided. The final decision. In the aftermath, the battle was over, but the cost was immense. Earth's future was secured, but the galaxy had been forever changed. The Reaver's power had been unleashed in ways humanity never intended, and the artifact's true nature had been revealed. It was not just a weapon of destruction. It was a key to unlocking the deepest secrets of the universe, to manipulating reality itself. The humans had won the war, but the war had changed them. It had forced them to confront the true power within themselves, and the price of wielding such power. As Earth celebrated its victory, one thing was certain. The galaxy would never forget the lesson learned. Humanity was no longer the underdog. They had ascended, and the universe would have to reckon with them. The story of Earth's rise, from peaceful explorers to fierce defenders of the galaxy, had only just begun.